Oh, good. Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to on this Polk County Board of Commissioners. It is September 7th. Extra agendas are on the back table by the door. I'm looking for comments not on this agenda. And I do have one I would like to place in front of the board. I got an email talking about the Vietnam War Memorial in Wilsonville, and they're looking to expand. They're looking for counties to partner. And so far, there's been 14 counties. I just wanted to let this know to the other two commissioners to take a look at this. It's going to be on next Tuesday's agenda for us to discuss and look at. But I think it's a great opportunity. So far, there's been 14 counties that's donated into this for our war veterans. And I've seen the people that we have here, and Eric sitting back there. I thought you'd find that extremely interesting. And we can discuss this more between now and Tuesday. Any other comments on this agenda? So we will make a change in the agenda. We'll be putting the Family Community Outreach Department update above the reclassification. With that change, can I look for approval of agenda?
So move.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda passes. And approval of minutes from August 31st.
Moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Approval passes. And approval of consent calendar.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent calendar passes. Next up is Family Community Outreach Department update. Mr. Brent DeMo and team. So if you guys will let us know who's all here for the record, we would appreciate it.
Good morning, commissioners. Brent DeMo, Director of the Family and Community Outreach Department. To my right,
Eric Enderly, Polk County Veteran Services Program Supervisor.
Stephanie Gilbert, Early Learning and Family Engagement Supervisor.
And then David Goodale, I work for FCO and provide the public mental health program.
I'm going to kick things off, and then each of us are just going to take a couple of minutes and give you guys a couple of highlights from last year and perhaps some things that we're excited about in the near future. Whenever the board asks us to come and do an update, it's always difficult in our department to figure out what it is we're going to update you on, because there's usually a lot of things. So I also wanted to let you know that I love the team that I get to work with, and the work that we do, the success that we have really rests on the shoulders of the supervisors and the teams that are under them. So I always like to bring them because it's their programs, it's their clients, it's their grants, it's what they did. So they'll each talk a little bit about their part, but we won't be here forever. And we're not going to go over the entire annual report. We brought that for you guys to look at and ask any questions in the future. So we're going to start off this morning. Stephanie's going to kick it off, and then Dana, and then Eric, and then I'll wrap us up.
All right, well, I'll start with some updates for the Resource Center. It's our biggest program. So in the 2021-22 fiscal year, we did nearly $600 in cash assistance to clients in Polk County.
600,000.
600,000.
600 would not be
No,
quite
600,000.
impressive.
And that's things like rent, utilities, helping people get moved in with deposits, like child safety equipment, so car seats, diapers, all kinds of things to help families be sustainable. We also opened our Monmouth Annex site this year. We started with 3 days a week and very quickly realized that community was excited to have us there. So we're open in Monmouth 5 days a week with bilingual, bicultural staff there. And we're serving a brand new population of folks we've never seen before, which is super exciting. And then a really cool success story for the Resource Center specifically is we do tons of outreach events throughout the year. We're out at all kinds of things. One of those being Crazy Days. And last year during Crazy Days, family came to our booth. Kids were playing with all of our activities. We started talking to mom, and the family was homeless. While they were there in our booth, we were able to make some connections with some local landlords, and they left with an application for an apartment just from Crazy Days, which was really just, I think, talks well to what as a department we do, but really like we're out there having a great time, but still really making a difference for folks. Our Family Resource Navigator program continues to work with families connected to the child welfare system. They're averaging about 29 families a month on their caseload, so about 15 each. We brought on a new Navigator this year, and she has hit the ground running. She's doing great. They too are working a lot on housing and things of that nature. Parent education is busier than ever. We brought in-person programming back this year and got to play a lot with technology and doing things like hybrid. So we offered classes where you could come in person or join us virtually, and you could switch back and forth with whatever met the needs of your family. That's something that no one else had done, so we thought we'd give it a try. We also were able to bring our early learning conference back this year, where we had about 200 early learning professionals and kindergarten through second grade teachers come together and do a lot of learning around social emotional development and really focusing on like behavior management, classroom management, how to return to classrooms after COVID. People were really excited that that was in person, and we plan to bring that back again this year. We also do a really cool program every year called Playbox. That kind of was born out of COVID, but our way of working through Child Abuse Prevention Month. So every week, families who signed up for that program received a box packed with games and activities and lessons that they could do at home through the month of April. We had 50 families participate, which was more than 300 people. So we were really, really excited about that. Suicide prevention also brought back in-person programming this year, which was a big deal for suicide prevention because many of the programs can't be run virtually, which means they just didn't get to run. So they are back. We also were able to finally launch a program called Small Talk. It's a program that focuses on people who work with young people. So really like early elementary aged kiddos and how you have conversations around suicide with elementary school students. So we're the only place in the country that offers this curriculum. So it's really exciting to see that coming to life, and we've been able to offer it a couple times. There's lots more of that coming. Something really exciting that suicide prevention is working on right now is actually those coffee sleeves that are right there. So suicide prevention. Suicide prevention finally has a 3-digit phone number for the crisis line. And so the coalition is working really hard to get that information out and help get folks connected to that resource. Our other prevention programs are really focused on youth work. So we were able to bring back our high school internship program and have over 20 kids go through that program this last year. We also wrote a grant to the Spirit Mountain Community Fund to help us with the youth internship program and mini grant program, all coming back this school year, which focuses on letting youth have a voice in activities that are available in the community. They're also bringing back the youth conference this year, so with a focus on career readiness and some prevention topics there as well. I think, what else do I have in here? Lots of outreach events. We've brought back to school bash back. We, again, help with Christmas. We had a big presence at Halloween, the trick-or-treat event here in Dallas this last year, really as kind of a like launching point for all things related to the Holiday Project. Holiday Project, we worked with about 700 families last year and anticipate that to be about the same this year. And then the last program that I have is the Rural Food Delivery Program. We're currently delivering food to 180 families a week across Monmouth, Independence, Dallas, Grand Ronde, Falls City, and I think they go even as far out as to PD. So those boxes are packed every week with like health restrictions in mind, cultural, like making those boxes appropriate in that way. That program will wrap up at the end of November with Thanksgiving boxes that we're giving folks a choice to let us know what that looks like for them. So it could be a traditional Thanksgiving meal. It could be just a regular food box, or if there are, one or two folks in the home, they'll get some options. So we're gonna get that going, and then that'll wrap up that program.
All of those families know that the program is wrapping up. They're not going to just be cut off in November to wonder where the food is. We have slowly told them the program ends. It's a post-COVID sort of shot in the arm of food service, and then here's all the local food banks. Here's other ways to get food, but it is a hard end in November.
So are those all being delivered by employees or volunteers or a combination of all the above?
Yeah, so with this grant, we were able to hire some temporary drivers. And so they're only focused, they work about 20 hours a week. They each have a route, and it takes all day. And they go out and deliver right to the door because it's perishable stuff too. So they knock on the door, make sure somebody's home. If they're not home, we leave a door hanger and let them know to call the resource center, and we'll arrange either having that re-delivered or they can pick it up.
This is a bit of a spoiler, but when you said volunteers too, when Eric talks, he'll talk about how the guys from Gales Lodge are volunteering, helping to deliver food.
Is that CDBG program discontinued from on high, or is that just something we're not going to pursue?
We actually ran out of funds in March and applied for $66,000 more, which they did grant us without having to go through the process we went through the first time. We kind of told them, if we have to go through that, we're not going to apply for more funds because it's just too much work on staff side. So they wrote us another check for $66K to carry it forward. The grant was supposed to go through December 30th, but with fuel prices and food prices, the money just did not last that long. So we wanted to make sure families had Thanksgiving, and we have the holiday project coming up in December with a food component anyway. So families will be taken care of that way. There wasn't an option for us to get more funds to keep doing it. All of that CDBG funding has to end December 30th.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
School-based mental health. This is a good transition because I feel like our school-based mental health team is a direct connection to families in Polk County in the schools. So we do a lot of that resource connection and helping families to identify what those needs might be when things come up at school. So strictly looking at staffing levels, this year we have 15 people on our team, which is really exciting. When I think back to 9 or 10 years ago when the program moved into family and community outreach, there were 6 of us. So it's been really, really awesome to be a part of this growth and seeing the school districts that we are in, Dallas, Central Paradale, and this year Fall City, just continue to see the benefit of the services that we provide and continue to want to grow and have more staff. So part of that growth looks like there is someone in every school, either a therapist or a skills trainer, associate level staff member. And then in addition to that, Dallas and Central School District both have a school-based like resource connector on the team focused on that district. So those roles look a lot like when we identify a family that needs help with the paperwork for rental assistance or they're getting evicted, to have someone to sit with them and help do those warm handoffs of go to the resource center with them and help them meet whoever they're working with, go sit with them at Stable Health and make those connections and those really, really important things that we just want to make sure that they feel supported throughout this whole process. Going back to Fall City, this is the first year in a while, I don't know, 2017 maybe, that we've had staff at Fall City, which and we're really, really excited about that. Excited about the new superintendent, excited about the leadership, and the folks out there. Our hire out there, I said it in there, her name is Aaliyah. She is from the community. She has been at Fall City High School for 3 or 4 years. And we felt really, really fortunate to scoop her up and have her be a part of our school-based team. And she's really excited to be providing more of a mental health focus to students out there. So it just makes me really excited, not only that we're providing services, but we have someone in the community who is familiar with folks and familiar with how things work, because that will make a huge difference in helping students to feel comfortable receiving those supports.
I think it's worth mentioning also as a little plug, one of the reasons she said yes to the job was we had immediate availability for childcare. And that was a huge factor for her switching from being the counselor for Fall City, where there was no childcare available at all, to working for Dana and having childcare the day she started.
Not to get too much into her personal life, but it was to the point where she wanted to stay in Fall City, but she needed another job that she could get reliable childcare for. So it was potentially working for the WESD, potentially working in Salem Kaiser, somewhere else. So really because of the childcare program that we have and that there were spots available for her child, she was able to stay at Fall City and continue to provide services, which Aaliyah graduated from Fall City High School. She's like totally from the community. So it just feels good in all the ways. So this was the first year that we were offering summer school support in all of our current districts. So Central Dallas and Perrydale all had staff working for summer school and throughout summer. So in all the districts that looked a little different. We had folks providing a lot of that one-on-one individual support for youth, a lot of parent support throughout the summer. And then in Perrydale, they just had a focus on positive youth development. So every week, our school-based mental health person partnered with the administrator at the school, and they did like a youth outreach event. So they paid to take kids to the movies, they went to splash pads, they went bowling, they did all this fun stuff, and just said, come and connect, and we want to see you and stay connected. And they had 40 to 50 students show up every week, which I think is a lot for Perrydale. So siblings, and it was just really, really great. And so for Stephanie, our person out there, to be building those relationships with students in a positive way before the school year even starts. Purely statistic stuff, in terms of suicide screenings and what we are seeing students for. Suicide screenings are continuing to tick up, which makes sense as we are continuing to add staff. We are seeing more of a need and able to address that need. And our students served on an ongoing basis is pretty typical. It's just under 1,000 students. For the past couple of years, the common visit focus area has been emotional regulation, so helping students to develop those coping skills, to just sit in class, to be ready to be calm when you need to be calm, to be excited when you're excited, and to show that in what appropriate ways are in schools. And then healthy relationships, and also family. There's been so much of a concern about family and safety and health with COVID, that now coming back to school and being separated from your family and having the skills to not be worried about your parents all day is new for a lot of kids. So those are kind of the trends we've been seeing for the past couple of years. We are really looking forward to getting back to what is a normal school year. This is really the first year in a couple of years that we are back and in person, and there's not an online component to it for many of our districts. So we have been really intentional this year about investing in trainings for our staff with grief and loss, and running groups and different evidence-based curriculums, restorative justice. So we are there. We can help support the teachers throughout this year too, but also being really intentional of the past couple of years, we were a little bit more flexible and loose with how we were supporting students. And this year we're really kind of narrowing it back down to, not to get too clinical, but episodes of care. So the idea, we're going to see a student for maybe 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to work on a specific goal, and then they're going to try it out in class on their own. So our goal is that they won't need to see us. Our staff members at any given time carry between 70 to 90 students that they have open to them, that they are providing services to, which is a lot. So the hope is that with moving more towards this intentional, we're going to see you for a couple weeks and then evaluate and see where you're at and try and get you back to not seeing us, is just going to help with being able to serve more students, hopefully throughout the school year. Granted, there are going to be students that we see all year long, because that's just what we do. And we're not going to say, a hard no to kids or families that need that. But that's kind of how across all of the districts that we're in, we're kind of proposing that to teachers and parents of we're getting back to where we used to be before COVID, and we had to make so many changes. Yeah, our staff is so excited to be back. They had a little bit of time off in the summer, and they're rejuvenated and ready. And yeah, it's been really great talking with folks as orientation comes through and kids and families come back to the building. So we are ready for this year.
We did not have an opportunity to use the $1,000 at Christmas time to do something for our department because there was too much going on. We could not get everybody together, but we were able 2 weeks ago to get the entire department together for an all-day staff retreat. And we really appreciate the fact that you guys earmarked some money. You guys paid for our lunch and our treats. And it's hard to get FCO together in one place, but we were able to do it. And it was very much appreciated.
What year did you start?
2012.
Do you know what the staffing level was when you started?
I think there were 6 of us.
6.
Yeah.
She was one of the 6.
I was one of the 6.
So I'm gonna just grandstand just a tiny bit here for you, with you, about the success of this program and with your leadership, and help, you know, getting more school districts on board, getting more engaged. I'm always critical of us throwing taxpayer dollars at things and saying we fixed it or we made a difference. Sometimes it's really hard to measure in all government programs. I don't need to know the stats, but I believe the stats are here that show these successes. But because we're on the record, I want to make certain that folks that might be watching this or listening understand that this is a progress point. This is a place where we're investing your money with the help of our school districts, investing your money towards trying to make a difference in the mental health crisis that we're facing as a country, right? Correct me if I'm off base here, but I want to make certain that we continue to emphasize, if we want to get our arms around the challenges we have in this country that end up in a lot of cases with criminal behavior, this is where we do it, I think. But I want us to talk about that. And if you could touch on that just a little bit, your experience on how far we've gone and what Polk County exemplifies in this work versus others. And then at the end of that, talk about school districts that we still need to get on board.
Yeah. We are definitely a prevention focused program. Like that is where we don't have the capacity to provide really intensive services to youth, nor is it appropriate for us to be doing that in the school setting. And so having that lens and that prevention focus point, I think speaks really well to what you had mentioned of last week. Even we had a youth who we were doing a threat assessment on because there had been some potential violence in one of our school communities. And it was great because our one of our resource connectors and one of our therapists have been working with this family for the past 3 years. Mom is a sole Spanish speaker, which is challenging to help understand the services that her son is being connected with. And so for us to come alongside that mom and sit in at the threat assessment meetings, sit in at some of the diversion meetings, be involved with some of the probation pieces and encourage mom and son to be truthful and to talk about what's going on is huge. And I think will help prevent that student from being in the system, if you will, like getting further along into some potential gang and violent activity. But 10 years ago, I think some of the folks on our team were doing not so much mental health stuff in the schools. It was a lot of being a positive support for youth, but it was reading groups and recess duty and bus duty and lunch support and stuff like that. And there's been a really, really intentional focus on changing it towards mental health, but mental health in what we can do and what does it still look like to build relationships with youth and families, and do it from that mental health support lens and addressing any barriers that these kids have coming to school and being successful.
It's worth, Mr. Hansen will have probably he remembers historically, but it's worth mentioning that when I first took over the program about 10 or 11 years ago, primarily the team served those that had OHP, which was less than 20% of the population in all of our schools combined. And the districts really wanted staff to work with all students without the burden of who do we bill and how, which is why we shifted the program, changed it around. 10 years ago, if I'm going by memory, the county was putting in probably 40% of the budget about that time.
50.
About 50%. As of today, with the contracts we have now, the staff in the schools are 100% paid for by the schools. 100%. The county's contribution is really helping with the supervision and some of the training part of that, but we've reduced that down immensely. We're grateful for the county for seeing that prevention effort, but it also is a testament to Dana and her team that the schools value it so much that every year, all the way up to, I think we were solvent last year too, as far as staffing in the schools, but every year we increase staff and we increase services because they see the value for that to what they do.
it's part of the genius is that if it's self-contained in the school district itself, they're not necessarily connected to all the other county services as intimately as your program is. So I think that, I mean, it's genius. And also just the sea change in our awareness of mental health struggles with youth and destigmatizing that for youth that wasn't around when I was a kid. I buttoned up. I didn't talk about it. I had struggles as a kid, and I didn't have any resources. I can't imagine how different my childhood would have been had I had somebody in the school with my peers talking about it. I mean, gosh, I just can't. How do you measure that?
We're going to get to your second question, but I think only Greg and Matt are going to remember Jessica McWigan. She was on the school-based team 10 years ago in Fall City. Jessica McWigan worked with Aaliyah as a student to encourage her to get good grades and go to school and to be a school therapist just like Jessica. And that was Aaliyah's dream. And she turned around and came back to work at Fall City because we had this great person. She was one of the best school-based people. She was amazing. But it just, you see that come full circle after 10 years. Now she's doing the same thing in the school because the school-based mental health person encouraged her.
I think it's easy to, what's the word for it? To play down the idea of just sitting with a kid and building a relationship. And that is what we talk with the school-based team all the time of, if the very least you can do is help a kid feel heard, that is enough in that moment. And that's, I think, has been a really fantastic change in being an FCO and how we are so prevention focused. And we do all these outreach events that the school-based team participates in. So the holiday project, to see our families drive through and get gifts and help be the person to sign them up for holiday project stuff when maybe they were too nervous to come into a building that they know nobody in and ask for help. It just helps to break down those barriers. We had it yesterday was the first day of school in the central school district. And one of our elementary school staff did suicide screening day one because, and she's new. She is brand new. This is like her first official day, right, at her school. But she had job shadowed with a staff member who was there last year for 2 or 3 days and met this student. And I was processing it with her and she's like, thank goodness I was here last spring and met this kid because that he knew me and knew my face and was willing to come in and talk with me when the teacher noticed there was something going on. So just that piece that we are in the schools, we don't have an office somewhere else. We are there every day. We are at the bus drop off, waving to families. We're at pickup, saying goodbye. We're so excited to see you. Have a great night. So I think that relationship piece has gone really far, and relationship with that mental health focus, like being really intentional about it, has changed over the past 10 years or so in the program. So, and the schools see it big time, which is why they continue to invest and see it as a big part of their budget that they're willing to pay.
And the feedback from the teachers?
Oh, huge. Yeah, this year is the first year that we really, we're trying to do, I don't want to take them all the time, but like calming.
We've made
Calming corners in each of the classrooms. So not a calming corner, a connection corner. We changed the name because it's not about trying to be calm. It's about finding that connection and connecting with ourselves and connecting with someone else in a positive way. So trying to build little kits where each classroom has a corner where students can go and get connected when they are struggling for whatever reason. So part of the 6 to 8 week plan is students will come out and work on skills with us. And then we will go into the classroom with them and help them like learn how to use that connection corner kit. So that hopefully when they feel like they need a moment and class is being too much, they can seek that with, teachers. Okay, of course, but teachers are thankful because it's allowing students to be able to stay in class and not have to leave for extended periods of time. But also they are seeing a change in just students being able to positively interact with each other. Their students' threshold of being able to get through the day. We have students who come in and they're tired, they're hungry, they had a really rough night, and that teacher has 30 other students that she has to address. And so to be able to send us an email or call us on the walkie-talkie and say, hey, can you come in and check in with so-and-so? I think they need a little bit of connection. That teacher knows that that student is getting what they need, whatever it might be, even though that teacher is not able to provide it themselves in that moment. So.
One other just anecdote sort of on the data that Dana presents. When you watch the trends over the years and you see that we're doing more suicide screenings and threat assessments and you wonder, are we doing a good job? We actually say we are. It's kind of like cancer screening. If Polk County had more cancer screenings, it doesn't mean that we had more people with cancer. It means more people are aware to go get that. Because Stephanie's team is doing so much training on suicide prevention at every grade level, at every age, with churches, schools, community partners, kids themselves, more people are recognizing signs of depression, signs of suicidal ideology, and reporting that. So her staff can do that assessment or that screening. So I just wanted to say that for the record, that if there are people who watch our numbers and see that they go up, we're not bothered by that. That's more people recognizing somebody might need some help.
School districts. Last part of the question.
I'd love to be in all the districts.
Who's missing and how much more work do we have to do?
Kaiser
Is
it is
missing.
hard. Yeah, West Salem, which is really hard. So I support West Salem. Our school-based team supports West Salem on the threat assessment level. So if there is a threat assessment, because they're a Polk County school, they need a mental health representative. So I go out for that. But in terms of our school-based team, we would love to be in West Salem. It is hard because the current and transitioning superintendent, Christy Perry, has said if she can't do something in all the schools, she doesn't want to do it in any other schools because she wants to be equitable across all the buildings, which I totally understand.
There's no equivalent in Marion County.
There's not.
School-based mental health, really, out of 36 counties, I think I know 3 that do it.
Really?
And we're the only one that does it in a non-billing, see all students. The other ones that I'm familiar with, they only do it for kids who have OHP.
This is another example of an FCO innovation.
Yeah.
We need to celebrate and promote in our various roles to the state. I mean, this should be ubiquitous.
It should be, but when we do that, then it also means that we load this team with the responsibilities of training other counties that want
We
to
wouldn't
free.
offer that.
And that's great, but it is a workload.
Yeah.
There is, when I go to statewide or Pacific Northwest conferences on positive behavior intervention systems or school-based health centers, anytime I've given a presentation and I talk about the program we have, the number one question, 2 questions, or 1, how do we do that? And 2, who's paying for it? And it is hard to, when I say, well, the school districts are paying for it and we don't bill, we're not technically we're not a part of our like behavioral health like system.
Let's refer people to that if
But,
they qualify.
Yeah, we are a sister department, if you will. They think, oh, that can never work. I'm like, it can. You have to start small and then grow on it. But
You have to have a relationship first.
yes, and that is, I think, the hard thing is a lot of places are still so siloed. So
The other thing, this isn't necessarily something that's going to happen right away, but we are in talks with a couple of the charter schools in this area who also want to have school-based mental health staff. Charter schools don't get as much funding as a traditional school, but they are very interested in having Dana's team there. And also, we have just been connected more and more with the city of Willamina because of all of the work on homeless prevention and other things. And that's a very interesting place because there's a section of Willamina that's absolutely in Polk County, but the schools all lie in Yamhill, but they draw from everywhere. So some initial conversations happening with Willamina School District. When Dory Vickery left Central and went to Sheridan as the superintendent, she was wondering where her school-based mental health staff were from Yamhill County, and there are none. And she's like, Rick, can't you just do this? Can't you just do this for us? And probably not without some real serious conversations with Yamhill County, but people are asking for those types of services.
Thank you. Thanks you, especially for your leadership, all the team, of course, but I'm most intrigued by what you do, and we don't get to see you very often.
sure.
So I'm sorry, but had to capitalize.
I just want to interject. This just made me think back to Chief Moore had a big presentation to the Business Association one time on investing money in youth. And for every dollar we can invest in youth, that will keep them out of crime as they get older, will save us $8 in the future. Has a huge return for our investment. And listening to what you're doing is that exact same thing. We can keep these families together and the kids on the right track. We all win. Thank you.
Well, Eric's going to talk a little bit about some veteran and Gales Lodge, past, present, future, and then I'll wrap things up and we'll get out of here.
All right, commissioners, thank you. So first off, I want to go back to the Purple Heart, the county designation there back in April. We had a lot of great words said and appreciation given to you as commissioners that you were willing to take that on. On a personal note, my wife wants to point out, it's the first time I've ever been formally recognized anywhere as a Purple Heart recipient. So, thank you. So going to Gales Lodge real quick, we received $50,000 in SHAP funding. With that, we were able to hire 0.5 FTE. And it's been a cool thing with that person. It's Andrew Webster, and he's okay with me saying this. So he actually started as a client, went to a volunteer, was a temp employee, and now he's employed by us because of what we did starting in 2019. It fostered that, and he saw those things and wanted to be a part of it. So we were up to 5, and then our program worked well. So now we're to 4. Probably going back to 5 next week. We've worked really hard with other service organizations. Most recently, Vet Care. We've really kind of flourished there with them. The great thing about their program is they have a little more intensive services in terms of specifically they have a mental health provider on site. And so for some of our folks, it's been kind of a collaboration of this person needs just a little bit more than we can offer directly here in-house. So now Vet Care helps them for a while. Then they can come back, transition kind of back into the workforce or wherever they're going. And so it's kind of nice to have that, back and forth that, we don't just want to say your needs are too great and move you along. We're actually able to kind of work together and say, hey, your needs are greater. Let's take you here where it's a little more intensive. Then we can bring you back where it's a little more employment based, kind of getting back on the road again type services.
Let me just jump in on Gales Lodge stuff. So before we had this grant funding, which is steady funding, it'll be there every year. It was this guy right here, 24/7, 7 days a week, that did everything at Gales Lodge. Even though he doesn't work Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, his truck was there Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And I felt bad when I had the boat hooked up to the truck and I drove by and saw Eric working on a weekend. And that's why I fully supported having staffing. But what I want to say is that $50,000 that we get in partnership with the church and the community, about 30,000 of that helps pay for Andrew to be part-time. We run that program on $20,000 a year, serving 6 guys at a time. And when we did the math the other day on that, it was something like $3 a day is what it costs for us to run a transitional housing shelter for veterans that has the success rate that we have of getting people into full-time employment and or housing if it's appropriate. So I just wanted to say that, and also big kudos to Eric for doing all that since 2019. But now that we have this case management, we're actually going to be able to move people through even quicker.
Yeah, so, and Andrew's been there just a little over 2 months now, I believe we're coming up on 2 months. And we've already seen kind of the fruits of that transition, that more one-on-one time. We're having people get employment. We're having people getting housed. And he's working with the resource center and some of those relationships they've built in terms of housing, because depending on, their specific situation, sometimes it's a hurry up and wait and then a race to find something in a certain time with a certain, amount. So having the resource centers is great, specifically Ben, who's built those relationships with local landlords to say, we have a person, let's, move them in. Speaking of relationships, one of the things that's really unique that we're talking about professionally with some of my peers is I can go through most of the staff in our department and say, we've worked together to help someone, whether it's Dana's team and, a veteran family with children, school-age children, and kind of, bridging some gaps there to the resource center, like I talked about with Ben, to even, other county entities. One of the things that was not exciting, but I was really glad it we had those things is a vet came in, that overcame a lot of barriers with mental and physical health and has really done the work to get back in the workforce and was having a mental health crisis. And so he did what he was supposed to and tried to schedule an appointment for mental health. They said, absolutely, we'll get you right in December 18th. Mind you, this was almost a month and a half ago. And knowing that I'm not the mental health person you want to talk to, we worked with other county services and specifically Doug from Crisis, and we were able to get him in the next day and establish, care and keep him moving forward in a positive manner and address those needs. Yes, he was in crisis, but it kept it from escalating further.
It's worth mentioning that led us to meet with Noelle last week. And we're going to try to find a way. And she says that there is a path to provide at least temporary mental health services through her department when we move guys in until we can get them established either through veteran services, mental health things, or we always try to get the guys on OHP if we can too, because then Noelle's team takes care of them instantly. But there's a gap in there and it was just ridiculous and probably would have had to drive him to Portland too for a crisis 3 months later.
Yeah, and the part too that's even to Brent's point there, we may have had to drive them. We've had instances where the mobile crisis response team has driven veterans to Portland and stayed with them only for them to be discharged and have to kind of, backdoor cover that interim period to find other services. Kind of takes me to my next point. So the Pact Act, the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson honoring our Pact Act was passed, signed into law August 10th. So just to give you some context, the Congressional Budget Office says there's implications for about 3.18 million veterans. And the Blue Water, between the Blue Water Sailors Act and the Procopio case, that was about 50 to 90,000 vets. And we here locally just kind of crested the peak, so to speak, on that 3 years later. So the Pact Act and kind of its wide-ranging implications, we're trying to kind of gear up, figure out what we can. There's a lot of, we'll find out tomorrow kind of thing.
It basically means there's going to be a whole lot more veterans who qualify for services who've never qualified before, and it comes with no money at the state, federal, or local level for Eric and Nikki to take on potentially a 20% increase in the first year of clients.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to put on the record is if you go to any of the VA sites, specifically the Pact Act, and you scroll to the bottom, it tells you all these things in, call it sliver information, little slivers, pieces of the pie. You get to the bottom of the page, and basically it says for more information, call us, not us specifically, but service organizations. The VA's done a really good job of getting the information about the bill out there to a degree, and it's kind of left it in our laps to, sort out what it is, what it isn't. So there's some of that stuff going on.
Which just helps fortify the impression to veterans that it's just another bureaucratic.
Yes, yes. And the thing that is both frustrating and a difficulty for us is I'm not going to tell you something because Eric cooked it up, but he was too hot in his office yesterday. I want to be able to point to law and a reason why this is what I'm telling you. And this bill is kind of a paramount example of, we really can't tell you that. You're going to have to take us for our face value. And it's uncomfortable because they're going to then get something from the VA that maybe reads differently, and you're trying to interpret, boilerplate language for that veteran, and they're having to look at what that's saying and what I'm saying and say, who's more right here? It makes it tough for us to build that rapport and that trust of, I'm not leading you astray. Trust me. That's probably not the best approach to take with a notoriously, questioning population.
That focus on relationships is so key, but the systems trauma, particularly with veterans, I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point, that we're not funding our VSOs and VAs to administer these new qualified benefits for more people. So
If you have any opportunity for advocacy at the legislative level, it's for local veteran service offices to have more money for staffing, not the state agency getting more money for staffing. Because we haven't seen an increase from the state in any significant way since we opened. And they only give us enough money for one FTE and not the rest of the program, not all of the rest of the things that a county entity needs to function. It basically, they give us enough money with $20 extra after Eric. Slight exaggeration there since I'm on the record, but it's not much.
Sorry. Golf. Yeah. So some fundraising opportunities coming up. The Dallas Golf Tournament has selected Polk Community Veterans Collaborative as the recipient for those donations and funds. So far, we've already received some donations. I don't have the amount in front of me, but it's been positive. And yeah, if any of you would like to play golf,
What's the date?
October 1st.
And I emailed y'all the info and it did fill up really fast.
Yeah.
So you'll have, if you do want to golf, you'll have to, but you remember Jim Williams from back in the day? So he's leading the effort. So his contact is on what I emailed you. He can probably still get you in.
So you emailed the information October 1st. It doesn't say what time.
Oh, well, it's their flyer. Let's work on that.
Yeah, okay, we should.
And I interpret it as
Get them to put
mostly
the time on
sponsorship
there.
opportunity.
It's all day.
And there's many
I didn't see
different
any.
ways. There's the 4-person scramble. There's different, I don't play golf, so there's other things. You hit a ball or something.
Neither do I, but in this role, I have to sometimes.
Yes.
It's not pretty.
We expect to bring in between $7,000 and $10,000 that they're going to donate to us just based on this one-day golf tournament.
It's amazing.
You could get more detailed information on what's going on.
You got it.
It would be beneficial.
Last kind of quick point, the nuts and bolts. So this calendar year, we're up to about $1 million in new retroactive and new monthly benefit payments to veterans we serve. There's a little bit of a lull, if you would, with the Pact Act and some other things. One of the things that Nikki and I were talking about is, again, kind of context, there was the Agent Orange Act of 1991. The Pact Act dwarfs that significantly. And Nikki and I discussing things, there's been a lot of presidential setting cases, and it feels like this is the hot button topic today, and then another one and another one. And by day 4, you can't even remember what the first one is. And there's some struggles there trying to help our clients through that process.
Thanks, Eric. I'll wrap us up. And
Purple heart sign.
Well, have you ever worked with ODOT before?
I do have, Gil has,
Do you want me to respond on the record?
Yeah. We won't put you,
Craig a half hour.
we won't put you in that position. Just know that Gil Dorch, our sign tech for the county, he took the lead on that. We have approval, and he's doing some other work, but he should be getting back to me here shortly, and I'll get you all a date of when that's going to happen.
Signs on the county side, piece of cake, but we need to do it all at the same time and have a really good plan. So we're using Gil's time and Mr. Whitaker's time, a good use of their
Well,
time.
before you plunge ahead, I think that it would be appropriate for this body to see the map of locations
Yeah.
so that we can at least be engaged at that level.
Yeah,
Hard to advocate, hard for me to have a conversation with anybody at ODOT when I don't know what you're doing.
Mr. Hansen helped us come up with a plan for mapping and also a certain amount of signs this fiscal year. And then we're gonna, for the next 2 years, add more. So we're not doing it all at once, but hitting the budget 3 years in a row. So we have, I think at the end, we're gonna have more than 20.
Perfect. Good.
Question for Eric. How many of your clients are?
That's a hard, okay, let me see here. So,
And I don't need.
yeah, not a ton. There are some that they start here, so we're gonna finish them up when they move, right? This is not a quick process, so a lot happens in a couple of years. We do have a fair number that come to us. Our reputation precedes us. And my belief has been, if you made the appointment, we're sitting down, the address is probably insignificant at that point. I'm not just gonna push you out the door. Typically what we do though is when that's identified is, hey, we got you started. Here's, something closer to home. If it's a unique case or kind of a sensitive case, again, I don't feel great about just saying, hey, thank you for telling me your worst day of your life. Now go tell it to the next person. So we kind of help them through that process. So
We
not a ton.
actually did pull data from last year, and we have absolutely every claim of every city, everything that we've done for every person outside of Polk County. So it's a one pager, and we can email it to you after this. I thought I had it with me, but Eric says not that many, but it's more than 60 people who are not from Polk County that heard that, well, the staff are just really good, and it's not the same case in every county.
And they're entitled to that. There's no reason why they should be turned away. No policy, no other, nothing.
There's no reason until it becomes such a point that these guys are scheduling people 6 weeks out because we don't have enough staff to process.
Right, I agree with that, but we knew that going into this program. That was a big part of the argument about taking them from the state office, bringing them here. So not everybody wanted to go. So we'll just have to keep talking about it though and keep addressing it from a funding standpoint. Again, we can't say no because we're successful.
One of the challenges with funding is that other counties aren't expending all of their lottery funds for veteran services. The state thinks, oh, looks like we're overfunding or adequately funding. And there might be a better formula to ensure that the resources are being implemented where they're being used. So,
Because Marion and Polk were the last two counties in the state to come on board of having county-supported veteran service offices. Other places have had veteran service offices for anywhere between 10 and 30 years. And every year their board has been able to, even if it's $5,000 every year, their budgets are just much more robust and their staffing plan is much more robust than ours. We've only been in operation, I think this is year 5, maybe. So we're blessed that the county is putting in as much money as there is. I would love to see more money coming from the state though, because we're going to be getting more clients and we're at our peak right now. We don't want to schedule people too far out because there's sensitivities with claims on how much time can go by before, if you don't do it in that time, you're done. So we'll keep you, we talk to Mr. Hansen about that stuff all the time and he's taking care of us greatly right now. So
Well, there is a danger, of course, of us. I concur with what you're saying, but the danger is, and this has happened for other counties, when they continue to say, well, the funding isn't showing up like it should be, so we'll supplement and we'll supplement, we'll supplement. The state office sees that, to Commissioner Gordon's point, and eventually it's like, yeah, you guys are doing fine. You don't need any more money. And so I think what we have to do is, or continue to do, is bring those state office people here and have a conversation with them. We should be doing that annually right here. So that we can say, here's the program you should be looking at. Here's what you should be putting more money into. And not that we're trying to attract clients away from other counties, but again, continue to exemplify this is how it's done. We have great success rate with our clients. They are very happy with it. Again, I know what this looked like starting out. It was scary, political. It was very unsteady. Lots and lots of veterans that weren't crazy about this. And lots that were, because they had plenty of problems at the state level. So I think we just need to continue with everything you all do, but specifically on veterans, and then bring our legislators in the room at the same time while we're having this conversation. We could easily do this on a Tuesday with state veteran folks, administrators, and our legislators, so they can see this is what we need to do. After November. Yeah, it doesn't do any good to talk to them right now.
well, I'll quickly just go through some of the things. I still like to do projects as the department heads. There's a couple things that I'm working on, and they still let me supervise 1 or 2 people on my own. So I'm really grateful for that. I still
Risky.
supervise service integration. During COVID, the last 2 years, we actually had more participation in service integration than we ever had before, because we had an online format. Even though we're moving back to full in-person meetings starting in Fall City this week, yesterday, we are also going to have the monthly virtual service integration meeting for all teams. So there are still people that can connect that way. So we kind of flip the script on the hybrid, and we're still going to do both. There's a report on service integration in here. They did fantastic things last year despite COVID. Major leveraging of dollars, more clients served than ever, more partners coming to meetings, more people attending those academy trainings and learning about the services. We brought back the resource guide. Amber did did a great job on that. So some good things there. Wanted to let you know that our team is working on a comprehensive health assessment for Falls City. That begins next week. We received a $25,000 grant from Willamette Health Council to just really find out what the needs actually are in Falls City from the people and not hearing assumptions from folks who work there on what those folks need. So we'll keep you abreast of that as that continues. Our department has been instrumental in working on prevention with homeless and at-risk families, working on issues around housing and homelessness. You may not know this name, but Jeremy, I want you to actually have your jaw drop when I say this. Yesterday, Red was moved into shelter at Vet Care in Salem.
Come on.
Homeless on the streets of Independence for at least 3 years. People thought that there was no hope. That was a collaboration between Eric's team, Stephanie's team, Community Action, and Vet Care that he was taken in for his intake yesterday. He is a veteran, but not fit for the program that we run. But he's there. So doing that case management and having all of the partners work together and having somebody keep all those folks in line. We haven't even started our plan for homeless prevention, and we've already seen that success. There's a couple other successes that have happened of impossible situations that between our team and others, we were able to move people from on the street, living in a trailer, or in Red's case, in a cot, and get them into a program. So I wanted to let you know, lots of work coming up with that in partnership with cities. The other thing I wanted to say about service integration, 7 years ago, Yamhill adopted the program, still going strong in Yamhill. 5 years ago, Sandiam Canyon adopted it, still going strong. They're adding another team, and we recently met and trained Lynn County, and they are starting a team in East Lynn County, starting I think in either Sweet Home or Cascadia, and then adding another team in 6 months to get the rural parts of Lynn County connected in the service integration way as well. And I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but eventually I think we are going to have to figure out a way to package what we do and sell it, or that they need to pay us to, train them on school-based mental health, on how to start a resource center. We helped Woodburn 2 different times start resource centers and co-location models based exactly on what we did.
It's like universities contracting curriculum, and it has value. And
Something like that.
Yeah.
We're excited that we're working with Brittany, who is the county's web person. She is really helping our department. We're going to take a step of getting rid of all of our standalone pages for every program we have. Instead of Instagram for VSO, YouTube for VSO, and Facebook for VSO, we're really going to move toward a platform where all of our stuff is pushed out under FCO's name. So there's constant connection back to the county and also content all of the time across our programs. So look for that in the coming months. Last part, you may not know this, Stephanie started in the county as an intern working with Mr. Dean Bender in emergency prep.
She overcame that.
It's resilient.
She overcame whatever he taught her. She has a background and part of her degree in emergency management. She's been to Katrina disasters and other places before. I'm saying all that because we're working with Dean, and now the Department of Human Services is tasked in Oregon with all disaster and emergency prep. They have a new department. We're excited to work with them. We meet with them for the first time tomorrow with public health and other partners to really have a great plan for Polk County for any kind of disaster that might come up. So we're going to be working alongside Dean and making that happen. Last thing I wanted to say is we are a weird, unique, interesting, nimble department. And the support from the board, the support from Greg, Morgan having to deal with the things that we do, Matt having to deal from an HR standpoint, the things that we do. We just want to come here with an attitude of gratitude and say we're grateful to have your guys' support. We're a little bit different than other county departments, but we enjoy working for you and with you. Sorry that this took a little longer than we thought, but that's not even a complete update, but you have enough to form some questions for next time if you want to.
I have 2 questions, but first I have to say, if I had a golden buzzer button for Polk County's Got Talent, I'd be pushing it. Okay, so you can relate to that. Yep. Again, I'm doing this again for the benefit of others that may be listening or watching. Do you have a number on total FCO lives, annual lives touched, and the unique encounters annually?
Yeah, we do. But one of the things we didn't brag about is we worked with a local company about 18 months ago because we didn't have a database that worked. All programs were reporting in different databases. So mainly Stephanie, but all the supervisors here, we built a database with a company in Salem that did not cost us the hundreds of thousands that database costs, that takes all of our client data and puts it in one place. Even Dana can track the unique things that they track. Eric can track unique things, but we actually know the touch points. If we're all serving the same client, it flags. It tracks our money for us. It has an integrated communication system for all the staff that use it, where they message notes back and forth. So we are just now able to pull exact what you said. How many diapers did we give away to 30-year-old Hispanic women with a zip code of 304? We can tell you that. So we're getting really good at figuring out how to pull those reports in this new system, but our data is spectacular now. We know individual encounters, we know overall, obviously families that come every day to check their mail, that's duplicative, but we can remove that as well. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, so the answer was yes, you do, but
Not today.
you don't have it. Okay.
How would you like us to give that to you? You want to?
I don't have an answer for that. I mean, again, that's for the benefit of on the record. And again, just to help folks understand the growth of the department, the demand, and the reason why we all lean in as much as we do. And so it helps us better exemplify to the taxpaying public out there why this is important work, and that we're not just doing it because we're unique.
This company that we're using primarily did websites for this. They never really delved into social service data collection. So they've helped us, but we really helped them, and we got to name it Navigator. We call it Nav. It is so good. They've already sold it to other nonprofits, and they're working with other nonprofits based on what we developed. And when that happens, they take a little bit off the price for us, our monthly fee. So it's pretty interesting. A lot of nonprofits struggle with how to collect data across multiple systems. They met with Community Action Agency recently because Community Action does not have a data system that collects all of their data. Whether they go with NeedNav or not, it's not decided yet, but it's pretty unique way to do something. It's not something canned that you have to pay licenses for, and you have to pay $200 an hour every time you want to change. This is, when we want to make a change, we take those changes back ourselves. We can add to the field. We don't need someone else to do it for us.
That's good to know, with the HB 4123 grant, the homelessness prevention, you're already doing so much homelessness prevention. And how do you demonstrate that you're mitigating risks that may lead to homelessness? And that's going to be a challenge, but I think it can be done because there are known risks. It's a slate of risk factors that we can point to that we've addressed with folks, and hopefully convince the state that should be a focus of homelessness investment. It's the prevention stuff that you all are already doing.
So I'm sorry, I would finalize my I don't know answer to if it was a page here in this in the future, I think that would be helpful, along with perhaps a graph of here's our touch points, here's our budget, or here's our revenues, just something to help compare. This is what we invest, this is what we get as a return. You can put that on the website pretty easily. And I think that's the key to it, is that if we're ever curious or we want to point legislators towards successes, that's where we would send them, is to the website.
Well, since y'all are the only one that have seen this, and that we approved it at 8:30 this morning, we'll call this a draft.
Okay.
And we'll look at pulling those reports and adding some of those sections around revenues, budget, touch points, and some of those numbers.
It'd be great to put it on a website. This is great information. I may sound like a broken record because I always say everybody has their A team. Polk County, we got the team. So great job. Thank you.
Well, we have an interview.
You do.
Right quick, so we're gonna get on out of here. Thank you for letting us go first.
Next up, if you're still awake, we have new job specification, salary range, and reclassification. Mr. Matt Hawkins.
Good morning. The first item of business I have is that we're requesting to create a new job specification to create child support case managers within our support services team. Along with that, we are requesting to reclassify our current legal secretaries that are in support enforcement. Essentially, what's happened is the support enforcement world, they don't do a lot of legal secretary work. They've taken on more case management type work. So we're trying to catch up to that. So we're requesting that along with the adoption of the job specification, that Monica David and Aaron McIntosh both be reclassified into the new position. With this taking place, we're asking that it be effective September 1st. And we would be looking at an approximate $6,100 increase to the program, which includes 12 months of PERS contributions and the increases to the salary range.
Assuming that has the thumbs up from the department head, I'm good with it.
I'm good.
All right.
Next up is reclassification of the early learning and family engagement supervisor, which is very fitting after that last presentation.
Yeah, I was teasing Stephanie before is that I've never actually had anyone sit here while we tried to reclassify them. So she apparently got out of here in time. But we are requesting to reclassify Stephanie Gilbert. So FCO didn't talk about it. They're undergoing some changes as well right now. That they're requesting that Stephanie be reclassified into what was Brent's old position as the FCO manager. Again, we are requesting that this be effective September 1st. They would be looking at an increase to their budget of approximately $4,500, including PERS contributions for, again, a 12-month period.
Yes.
There's just to add, if I may, to that on the consent calendar, which we've already gone through, there is an adoption of a new position within FCO, which we'll be recruiting for internally here rather soon.
I'm good with it too.
Thank you.
Next. With that, is there a need for an executive session today?
No, sir.
With that, we're adjourned.